Hey, Phantom here. I just wanted to hop on real quick and talk about the Duskbloods network test. My thoughts, how it went. Do I think the game is fun? I know it's a deciding factor for a lot of people if they're going to get a Switch 2 or not. So I'm just going to dive right in. My setup during the network test was I had the Switch docked and I was using my Potato T-Mobile Wi-Fi. I got to play sessions 2 through 4. At the time of recording, this is before the final session, but I'm going to a concert tonight and I will not be able to play. So we get the video now. My initial thoughts are the game's very fun and engaging. I liked the gameplay loop, which I'll kind of explain in a little bit. It's definitely more gamified, maybe some people would say arcadey, than other From Software games, which I don't think is a bad thing. The multiplayer queuing into games, that's all much more traditional than a From Software game. You don't have like furled fingers or red eye orbs or anything like that. It's all just in the hub, in the menu. You decide which games you want to play and you load right into them. The characters are all really cool. I like most of the character designs. I think they're all balanced pretty well. I did play as all of them throughout the network test. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. You know, Bloodhound Jan that's the Pajama Man. You know, has an axe, so his attacks are slower, but they hit harder. He can stagger a lot easier versus the Senator, what's his name? Senator Samir Petrez. That's the Dino Man, the guy who can turn into the dinosaur. He has a rapier or a straight sword, and so his attacks are a lot faster. You're a lot more mobile, but you don't stagger as much. And all the characters have these strengths and weaknesses that I think are balanced really well. There wasn't a time when I felt like my character choice negatively or positively affected my interactions with other players or even with the enemies in the world. It all felt very natural as when you played to the various characters' strengths and weaknesses. It felt good. There are no weapons to pick up. Every character already has their weapons on them, and that's what you get with your character. So when you learn a move set for that character, that's how it is. So that kind of simplifies things. You don't got to learn a plethora of weapons. You don't discover weapons, so if people really like that, that's not in this game. There are no backstabs, so there's not any of the annoying kiting, just going around in a circle waiting for someone to slip up to get a backstab like you see in, especially the earlier FromSoft games. There's none of that. You have a stamina bar like in or a stagger bar that's visible at all times like in Sekiro, and when you get a break on an enemy or on a player, then you get to perform a visceral attack, which in this game is a vampire bite, which is pretty sweet. But yeah, I think overall it felt pretty good. The netcode was surprisingly good, I think, in my experience, especially given my setup using Wi-Fi. It's my T-Mobile Wi-Fi, which always gives us problems. It wasn't perfect. Like, I was able to play other multiplayer games on it was on a PlayStation 5, but same Wi-Fi, playing Marathon was seamless. That was a lot more solid. They still have some work to do with Duskbloods, but overall it felt good. It felt better than other Souls games. I'll just kind of explain how the game works, and as I kind of ramble about the gameplay. So you load into the world, and you have four stages of one game session. The first stage, you kind of just run around, you kill enemies, you try to level up as much as you can. But the real goal is to collect something called virtue, which has been explained by other people. I'll just do it quickly now. Various activities will give you virtue. If there's a King of the Hill type event called a ritual site, then killing other players gives you sword virtue. If you capture the point of interest, the hill of King of the Hill, you get different kind of virtue. Killing one of the big bosses that we've seen, like the booby frog, Lady of the Swamp, it's named, then you get virtue for that. And whoever has the least amount of virtue by the end of the session, there's a timer for every for every stage. People with the least are cold. And you go through 1, 2, 3, and finally the last stage, there are only 3 players left. And in the network test, that becomes a battle royale. where everyone just dukes it out. You got like 2 lives at the end, and the winner is the winner. You get the coveted moon tears, which I don't really know what that is yet. Nobody really knows what that is, but that's what you are trying to get as these vampire characters. During any of the other sessions outside of the last one, you have infinite lives, infinite respawns. I've heard that there's a small penalty of either virtue or levels if you do die. I don't think I really experienced that, but you do lose valuable time, which this game is a lot like Night Rain in that your time management is essential. Routing is very important, and that's going to kind of lead into maybe a potential problem I have with the game, but I'll get into that later. So anyways, performance-wise, I talked a little bit about the netcode and how it's pretty good for the most part. I was a little surprised by that. The frame rate is also kind of what I expected. It's not quite 60. It's more than 30, and it was mostly stable. It wasn't locked, but there were a few frame dips, none that were game-breaking. I have pretty high tolerance for that kind of thing. There were a few in this build. Again, the game's not finished yet. There's more optimization to be done. But anyways, for the world, the lore, I know that's what we're all interested in. Is this an intriguing world? Is there a lot to dig into? I believe 100% yes. I am very excited for the final product. Just even what we saw in the network test in the hub world, there was a lot of really interesting imagery, symbolism. In the game world, we only have the one map. I think it's called Larantho City or something like that. Very interesting world design, meticulously crafted, I could tell. Lots of intention put behind the set pieces, behind the points of interest, lots of environmental storytelling to dig into. So very happy about that. I think that was kind of an issue with Night Rain, was due to the randomization. It was very hard you can't like really do environmental storytelling in the game world itself. We don't have that issue with the Duskbloods. At least I don't think so. At least it's based on the network test. But let me get into some of the issues. I've been kind of glazing it this whole time. So I mentioned that routing is very essential. Like in Night Rain, like time is of the essence. And if you are not on top of getting those virtue points as fast as possible, you will be culled and you won't make it. I think that can cause an issue because by like the final session I played today, session 4, I had basically the same route every time. Or I started following the same route. I would hit the cathedral area. I'd go light there's like fires you can light to gain virtue points. That's what I do immediately. I'd fight my way back out and be about level 4 or 5. That's just what I would do every time. I just try to beat every other player. I was mostly successful. And then I would go do things like go get a summon to help me out. Summons are in this game and they're very helpful. They're very cool. They're all their own characters. Oh, another thing, like the summons are all voiced. They all have voice lines, but even the player characters all have voice lines. And when you emote, they have voice lines, which I think is a nice touch. It again adds to that environmental storytelling. Regarding the gamified aspect, is not as immersive as other From Software games for sure. Even I think Night Rain was more immersive, even given the randomization aspect. It does feel a lot more like a game. Maybe that sounds silly to say. At the end of each chapter of a session, you have 4 blocks. The game stops. The timer runs out. The game stops. Everyone resets. And again, you choose where you want to spawn on the map. And then the next chapter begins. So it isn't at all like a seamless, immersive experience. That's what I mean by it feels very gamey. And some people might not like that. I didn't find it to be an issue because I was having a lot of fun and I thought it organized everything in a nice way. There was a little bit of desynchronization that would happen, especially with my favorite character, who was Senator Samir Petres. That's the dinosaur man. With his dinosaur attack, it has like a command grab, and you can grab and bite him and throw characters. If it was not synced up, that skill just like does not work. That was a little bit annoying. I Really enjoyed playing sessions 2 and 4. Those were great. I made it to the end almost every time. I didn't win every time. I won probably like a third to a half of the times, which I think is pretty good. I'm not a huge PvP guy, especially in Souls games, but thought I did pretty good, which I think speaks to the balance of the characters just as much as my skill or lack thereof. But there were some times when things would desync that would cause some issues. Session 3, which was when they were testing the high server load, was a disaster. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They, from software, Nintendo did recommend to use a wired connection and not to be on the Wi-Fi. I did not do that because that's not how I'm going to play the game. I'm going to be using it with Wi-Fi, either handheld or docked. So the third session on Saturday, yesterday, I got through one game without having a disconnect. That game I actually won, so that was cool. But it was 4 hours of getting maybe like 5 minutes of gameplay and then getting disconnected. And again, they recommended to not use Wi-Fi, but that, I've played all these other games that use a network connection with Wi-Fi, the same Wi-Fi, and that's not an issue. So that's just something that they definitely need to fix, which I think they will. But those are just kind of my thoughts on the network test in general. Overall, I thought it was very fun. I like the Duskbloods. Again, someone who's not huge into PvP, especially Souls PvP, where I feel like I am late to the boat on almost all the games, except Elden Ring and Night Rain. Night Rain doesn't have PvP. What am I saying? Except Elden Ring. And so this felt very good, very fun. I felt I could be right up there with some of the best players. The netcode could be improved, especially during the high server load. Like, that has to be fixed, or the game will break and will not work. Overall, very enjoyable experience. Very excited for the Duskbloods. Should you buy a Switch 2 just for this game? No, because that is silly. Nobody should buy a console for a singular game. But if you're excited about Nintendo's other, first-party games, or you like the portability, or, Nintendo's kind of the last bastion of physical media in console games, unfortunately, all those things might add up, and maybe you do want to get the Switch 2. I mean, the price is about to go up, like, very, very soon. But should you just get it for the Duskbloods? No, I don't think so. But it was a very good experience. I'm very excited to get it when it comes out. I want to hear your thoughts. If you played the network test, if you didn't, do you hate Nintendo? Are you upset that it's a console exclusive? I know, I'm sorry about that. It's unfortunate. Let me know in the comments. Anyways, I'm Phantom Leaves, and I'll see you next time.